Back to Paper to Pavement. This is Isetta RV Part 2. We're turning trash to treasure. We're gonna hear this thing fire up too. Well, I've needed siding for this thing for a long time, you know, and even if I did have a budget, which I don't, but even if I did, I couldn't afford or like really even find the kind of material I was wanting. I don't want like super retro looking 50s diner press stuff, and I don't want this new snap together. It looks like vinyl siding on the house to me. So I called around to all my buddies, and Trent Barger, right over here in Comiskey, he's a scrapper. Like all he gets this stuff for is to cut down and sell in aluminum, copper, and burn the rest. And he had this RV, and all he had wanted out of it was the drivetrain and kind of the hard parts, you know, the heavy stuff and the copper. And he had all this tin that had rolled up and he'd thrown in his weeds, and he gave it to us, dude. He said if it'll work for what we need, and it's era perfect, you know. It was like a 72 or 73 RV. So as far as for a kooky conversion based off of I want this thing to be like a Hot Wheels car, like a early Legends garage car, something that could have potentially been there from this very start. And I'm nailing it, man. Like everything that's happening is turning out better because of the garbage I'm having to build it out of. Like if I had an unlimited budget, I would have overcomplicated this and not had the parts and pieces that an RV actually has and needs. Being forced into the fire and having to build from garbage out of not just my scrap pile now, I don't have enough. So I've had to rely on my local buddies too and their scrap. And my creativity is getting tested on this one, brother. Like if anyone was worried about authenticity, we got the Isetta. I picked my route. And creativity, building it from garbage is making me love it more and more every day. Like it's showing me what it has to be, not what I want it to be. And kind of a reminder to accept things for how they want to exist, not the way you want them to exist. The whole process is making me kind of remember the garage spirit that got me started in this a long time ago. I never dug through catalogs to see what I wanted to build and how fancy the banana hammock's gonna be and how crazy the 6-offender is gonna be and all these parts and pieces that I worked hard to afford. You know, when I was a kid, I built out of my garbage. Going and looking for parts and pieces was no option, not an option. I'm not spending the time doing that. I'm spending the time building. And I just got back to basics on this, man. I took it right back to where I began on this gravel road 20 years ago. And my garage spirit has nothing to do with the building. It's got nothing to do with garage. I was building out here in the yard before I had a garage. So maybe that's why I'm not measuring out right in the standards of others, but as far as I'm concerned here in Deputy, I'm a Sasquatch level legend already, dude. So just like every other really good project, storms have to hit and ruin my plans, you know? And on this one, it was no different. When the storm hit the other day, it took 2 of the nicest pieces of sheet metal I had that I had committed for the driver's side, the smooth side. I was gonna get them in 2 big pieces, and they curled up as soon as the wind took them. All that makes me have to do is keep digging. You know, I can't quit. I'm either gonna have to put an extra seam there that I don't want, or find an access door, which I just so happened to do. I think it was access to probably the generator on the real RV. And if I had to dig in marketplace and catalogs and try to find a door that fit, there's no way I would have. And it just so happens that like the universe puts this stuff in my path, you know. I always say, you know, build it and they'll come. And if I don't have the parts, somehow, some way, they end up finding their way to me, you know, like we cross paths some way. And it's usually in garbage. Like what most people around here accumulate is usable, you know, and it may not be usable as far as to make a living with, but I'm not needing to make a living with stuff. I need to have fun and just survive day to day. And I can do that with very little. And, you know, I'm doing all that off of the skills that I built all those years ago at WyoTech. I haven't needed anything other than, you know, enough time to stop and put a plan together. And if I trust my instincts, it comes out better. And everything's accidentally falling together better on this project than I ever thought it would. The door itself, I never expected the window to be longer on the entrance door. And I was planning on still changing it. And then when I held it up there and Jimmy walked in and looked at it, he said, "Now I can see in, Dad." And that kind of made me see it from a different perspective. Like, if we're building this for kids, I gotta go back to what the pickle jar, you know, the bubble on the side was so the kids could see the inner workings of this thing. And the drop down in this door gives the exact same experience to an audience that is 2 years younger than would potentially even recognize it if I didn't run into what was really a compromise, you know? And it's not a compromise that I'm unhappy with. It's a compromise that I keep getting forced into that sets me in a better place than I thought I was going in the first place. So on all of this entire journey, like with Hot Wheels, with just paper to pavement in general, it seems like the less control I try to have over the project, and I just try to sit back and play and let my instincts take over. I've put a lot of hours into my skill development. So now as an artist, the best thing to do is experience life and see what it turns into. I think that the more personality that it shows me as it's getting built, it shows that it's supposed to exist, you know? It's not an extension of me. It is none of that, you know? I am Dr. Frankenstein and this is my monster, you know? I'm not trying to make this me. I'm trying to, you know, make it be what it wants to be. And I couldn't be prouder of what it's growing into, man, because we're not even 40 days away from the show. You know, today's day 36, so I still got 44 days. Look at what I've accomplished in less than 40 days before. And this right here, dude, if I walked up and seen this thing in this shape for sale and no one had ever seen it before, I would tell you, Trent, I'm a paint job away from a Hot Wheels Legends Tour contender, man. Like, this thing's almost there. And it is so much closer to what my chalkboard drawing is than I ever truly dreamed I was capable of pulling off. I didn't think I could do this. You know, I've always wanted to build Hot Wheels cars, so my aesthetic has always been toy-like, always. You know, I mean, you go all the way back to the Seam Ripper and the Pearl Necklace, where me and you got introduced to one another, man. Like, the whole idea of that set was like a toy. I mean, it was what I wanted to go in Walmart and get, you know. And then my personal artistic development since Papaw died. You know, I'm trying to find my own way and not kind of what makes someone proud, but what I actually want to do. And through paper to pavement and building the 6-offender and the banana hammock and these other Isettas, man, you know, like the Roller Coaster Racing, Hot Wheels Legends Tour Arizona winner, like that set, dude, I dreamed that up from nothing, just from hanging out with you on fight nights, man, and saying, what's next? What are we doing? There was no grand scheme of anything. And this one came up just as naturally, you know? I'm proud of the way that I've stacked up and like my artistic development's naturally progressed on its own. Like, I'm not trying to force it to. I just want to do more thinking it will bring more, you know? And I'm not saying more stuff, I'm saying more opportunities, you know, more scrap to explore with and more things to dive into, more things to compete with, but not compete against people with nicer stuff. I just want to do my process my way and show my perspective. And I'm so happy that this is what it's led me to. Like, I sat down in tears and wrote the words redemption vehicle on a piece of paper when I got this started. This thing wasn't born on a happy day, you know? I just got beat up on a global level by Mazda Miata, man. Like, I took that as a hard hit. I did. And I kind of felt like a fighter that lost a split decision, you know? And I go back to the training camp thinking, you know, well, 1 out of the 3 judges agreed with me, but not enough, you know? And this time it's like, I don't want to go to a judge's decision, you know? I want to piece something together, a true redemption vehicle that knocks it out before we get to the bell, you know? I want to know that I'm showing up with a winner, even if it ain't for them, it is for me, you know? And last time I built myself a work truck and a race car, which was really, I'm asking too much. Like, I'm trying to get too much out of myself. And this time it's like, stop worrying about what you have to work and do and start worrying about what you want to play and do and experience with your kids and your wife and your area. And like, what do we stand for? You know, where am I from? And I'm from a grandparent's living room, man. Like, that's where I grew up, on my belly, watching TV in, you know, an old 70s shagged out, outdated living room. Like, that's me. And that's what the inside of this is going to represent next. I thought by the time I got in a rolling visual structure, which is my goal on day 40, and I'm a couple days away from that, so like I'm right on schedule. The visual representation I got to here, like complete artistry by day 40, I figured I'd have probably 3 or 4 grand in it. Trent, I have $0, nothing. Like zip, zero, nada, not a dollar. So, dude, the $2,500 that I'm hustling together for body shop supplies, it can go into everything now, you know? I mean, it gets me to where I can get nicer tires. I can get a brand new engine instead of having to, you know, use scrap on it. I have never in my life been able to crack open a crate engine. And I mean, no matter how small this thing is, it's still a single cylinder engine just like an Isetta had in it from the factory. So I'm really just upgrading from what would have and could have been, truly, you know, and what is definitely gonna be here on my acre earth. That is a fully modified chassis. Steering's working, the suspension's working, everything's good. So now I'm ready to pull it in, do the engine mount and the cockpit, because I want to get it setting and all the pedals done and the steering where I want it. While it's a chassis like this, then set the body on and adjust the body mounts accordingly. Because I want this car to actually feel like I want to climb in it and drive it, you know? The pickle jar, I taste my knees the whole time. And this one, I actually want to have space. So I'm not going to build the camper and then force myself to squeeze in it like I did with the pickle jar. I'm going to make a cockpit here and slip that body around it and design the interior around where I need to sit. I'm going to do right now. Smith and Mike and Adam Lohorn just left, and they dropped off supplies. Look at all this Lexan. Mike had 3 sheets of this. They were gonna throw this away at the factory he works at. This was COVID, you know, block off screens on the assembly line he was at. They had 3 sheets of it. This is gonna be more than enough to finish off every panel I need for this little bad boy. Yes. More to add to the budget box, baby. That Lexan, that's probably $500–600 in material that, thankfully for COVID, is available to us out here in the scrap pile. Yeah. I'm gonna move on to the body mounts and the floor. I'm cooking the bacon grease now, baby. I have got the body on, mounted, and I got the ride height the way I like it. Me and Levi will stiffen up the suspension a little bit just to make sure we're not, you know, bottoming out anywhere, but really happy with all these mounts I've made. Now it's time to cut this door off. I had it welded solid for the coach building process, but now that that's behind me, I'm ready to jump on the cab floorboard. I'm gonna do it first, that way I know where the bunk is gonna land and how that firewall transition is gonna meet. I'm pretty well thinking I'll start building it from the front, I'll start building it from the back, and then I'll just figure out how to kiss the two. We'll see, wish me luck. All right, I got the entry front step done. Got all that in the dash. really happy with it. Tomorrow when I get out here, I'm gonna try to finish the firewall and the rest of the cab. Whew. I'm excited to see how this turns out. Can't wait to see the kids climb through it. It's gonna be pretty fun. I'm glad I swapped this over. I was gonna do this swing out to a kitchen, but me and Levi were talking about it, and with that engine being under the bed, it's gonna be a good idea to have two ways to get out of this thing in case of a emergency. So I like that. Now I'm gonna pad the top of the dash and the sides, so it'll just be like a giant rolling hangout pad. I dig it. All right, I'm gonna go get some sleep and then back on to the floorboard tomorrow. The base of my seat frame done. You look in here, it's so hard to see this floor structure, but I have all of the floor structure done, and I'm gonna use the base of this. I'm only gonna have this much room, you know, for like the mount for the cushion, you know, because this pretty much turns into an entire bed. And I need a little like a recliner looking here, but I don't think there's any reason for it to only recline this far, because it has to land there for the deck of the bed. See what I'm saying? So I think what I'm gonna do is cut this bend off down here and then cut the top of this and weld to the bottom of this seat frame. I still have to fill in all these gaps on the side, and I gotta figure out how to make cross members and like the last final mounts to put like the wood bases and everything on for the camper box. And I think I'm down to just come follow me. Stuff on the bus is pretty much trash. Like, it's really bad. I've dug through about everything there, and anything that is good on that is kind of being stored for something else. But I have all the seats out of it. You know, I got all the seats out of the bus, which not only will be some metal for me, you know, I'll have all these seat frames, but I think I've got some foam too that I can go ahead and make the, you know, captain's chair out of. So I can get this thing test fit, but you know, before I commit to my pedals. So I think I'm gonna dig in these here, avoid the snakes, and go that route. Because I can even use these brackets too. There's some hardware here that I'm not even able to see. Scrap pile dive. I thought I was done digging in the trash on this one, but last time. Wish me luck, baby.
Good luck, Tom.
I've got all of the structure made. All of my mounts are done, and I've already got it split apart here. Ruthie's come out to help me take the box off. This will be the last time the box is on before the body's painted. I'm already there. So I have all of the structure in order for telling me where it's all gonna land with the engine. So now I can focus on the cab, and Levi can focus on getting this thing running and stopping. So we're about to have a running, driving, at least primed rig pretty soon. All right, so I've started making the pedal assembly. All I have left to do is shorten the column, get the pedal assembly done. This little floorboard area will stay in this chassis, you know? So this chassis will be able to run and drive and shift and make sure everything's functional without the body, you know, connected at all. So the only thing that you'll have to do to take the body off is unplug the headlight pigtail, the tail light pigtail, and you know, then you'll be able to test this without rubbing holes through the body if there's going to be any spots. This is one of those like T-bucket universal brake pedal assemblies, and they're made so you can cut them around and adjust them. And I have hung it under here, and I'm gonna cut this, you know, right through this area, and I'm gonna cut this spot and put this down here under the floor with like a stem sticking through. So it'll have a brake pedal that comes up, you push, and then the floorboard will be able to stay nice. I got all the pedals from Speedway this time, and it's kind of nice because like this gives me the angle I want for inside, you know, from like a bar stool lounge type seating area, you know, so my brake pedal will push down, this kind of pushes down, but the slot that they give you pulls the cable straight back, you know, you see how that's working in that slot? So I'm gonna worry about that after I do the brake. I'm starting in the center, I'm working my way out, and then after the pedals are in place, I'm gonna go ahead and hang a shifter too and get it all done. Because once that's done and the column's shortened, I can put the cab back on and get everything ready to put the camper in place to mount the exhaust. I ended up going with these little scooter mufflers. I got 2 of them. And then I just bought some universal bends. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill that gap that's in that wheel well area underneath the step, so it's not just a big void there. I don't know if I'm gonna use 1 or 2, but I have options to move them around and get it looking good in place. Once the cab's on, once the camper's on, the exhaust is on, I'll be able to make that step area, get my deck bed area in place inside, and then the body and camper are together for good at that point. You know, like once they go together this next time after all this stuff's made, we're ready for a paint job, baby. So while I'm working on prettying, Levi's gonna be working on making this thing breathe some fire.
Nice.
I'm gonna get back to it because I feel like I'm gonna get in thrash mode until this thing's ready to go to Mikey's Merlin. Wish me luck. I got the pedals figured out. I wanted to show you this clutch pedal I made. $0. I made it all out of that school bus seat right there. I even made the pedal itself, the pad, out of the seatbelt mount that went to the floor. So there it is. That's my favorite stuff to do. All right, I've almost got those pedals figured out. I'm gonna work on the cables now, then the floorboard, and blow it all apart for paint, I guess. Wish me luck. Have fun out there, everybody. I got the chassis all done and ready to slip the body on for the last time. I just made this mount for the column too that bolts on. So that's all shortened, mounted. All of the pedals are done, the linkages are made. Now before I make the exhaust, I'm gonna put this cab in place so I can check my clearance from here. And then I will put that tube on to there. Then I'll throw the camper on to get the last fitment for the exhaust. I believe that exhaust mount and the like stairway opening in the camper door are the last fabrication pieces that I need to make before everything can come apart for paint. The car blocked in place. So I stayed up all night again to prep and get that chassis ready. And it's done. I got the chassis all painted and back together last night. Levi and Travis came over to grab her. Try to breathe some life into this Hot Wheels car. What do you think, guys?
All day. Should be purring soon.
I think it's good enough for the chicks we're chasing. like rain, so I got all this stuff moved back here, and I'm still gonna be dancing around with my luck because this is as close as I can get my paint booth to dry. So this is as far back as I've got. So my plan is I'm gonna get this all ready to go. I'm gonna clean it, and then me and Ruthie, cameraman, he's gonna pull this stuff out. I'm gonna sprint spray, shove it back in before the rain hits. Hey, if there's a will, there's a way. And I've got a lot of will. Wish me luck.
Good luck, baby.
All right, so this is slick sand. So it's like a polyester body filler primer. So what you're trying to do is spray it on, and this is like a uniform last coat of body filler. So this stuff sprays on, I don't care if it runs or not. I wanna make sure there's a good coat on it to cover all the pinholes and all the scratches. And you gotta jump on it because it hardens quick. I got it all in slick sand. That's the first coat of primer. The only things I got left to prime are all the doors. The front door, the entrance door, and the engine cover door. You know, but they're all in such good shape that I don't have to use high build on those. So after I sprayed this with high build and got them all in one color, I definitely see some hammer and dollying I need to do, you know, on this camper tin before I skim it up and paint it. So I definitely have a few more days of body work, you know, before, and another coat of primer before a paint job, but by this weekend we ought to have a paint job on this thing. And it looked like Levi was making progress over there when you were over there, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
What, did he get turning over, you
It
said?
sounded like he got a spark on it.
Hey, so my boy Levi's got me not worrying about that part, and it gives me all the time I need here to get this thing in Hot Wheels condition.
Awesome.
I'm gonna go take a nap. Side looks really good. I got all the edges dialed in and everything now. Tell you what, I don't know how that other side is gonna level out, but I only have a couple little spots to touch up on this side, and it's ready to seal for paint. It's really close. It's crazy to say that. Do you remember the pile of scrap we started with, baby? It's came a long way. 2 weeks to go. It's gonna be the hardest 2 weeks, but most satisfying. So I gotta stay locked in, and just as long as I don't trip on my shoelaces and don't hurt myself, I feel like I'm, you know, a favorite this year. I ain't an underdog no more. I gotta prove myself. Easy part.
Pretty good.
the bottom patch on. I'm just taking my time welding it. The new bus steel is a lot thicker than this door. The rest of the body is thicker than the door too. I don't know why, but it's not the same sheet metal. This door is. I don't know if it might be a different year. Maybe they change steel from year to year. I've always ran into, you know, the shell of a car is usually always the same thickness as the rest, but this is like, listen, it's so thin. So I'm taking my time with it. I'm starting, when you have a thicker piece of steel like I do here, I have to start on that thicker steel when I weld and walk it over to the thinner. I can't just kind of aim for the crack, you know what I mean? I have to pull it over, so it's taking longer. I didn't have a way to make this curve and do a lip, you know, that would go over this and hem this edge. So I have butted the edge. I'm welding it, zzz, 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 and then I'll come in here and file all this smooth. So that's how I'll do it. From the factory, they just butted them up, left a edge, and it's kind of like seam welded on the inside, and that's what let that water get in. So I am welding it all smooth, getting rid of the crack, and I'm gonna seam seal the rest of the crack before I prime it. But other than finish welding this up, I got a couple little holes to tack up, throw some putty on this, some primer, and we're ready for a paint job. Okay, so here's what the plan is. I'm gonna seam seal all of this, and I'm gonna undercoat, which I'm undercoating this time with, I'm doing self-etch primer on all of the bare metal, and then I'm burying it in bed liner, in this truck bed liner. Rust-Oleum can stuff. I've been using rubberized undercoating, you know, like most people do, but last time I used this truck bed liner. I got a box of it that was on clearance, and it hardens a lot better. Like, it seems like it sticks. Undercoating wants to flake off on the gravel road, you know, over time, and this isn't. This is holding up actually a lot better. So I've made the switch on my undercoating. You know, I still treat the steel for bare metal, you know, so you gotta do etch or epoxy or something, you know, because this isn't gonna protect it from rust, but, you know, it puts a huge barrier on it, and, you know, sprays really well, and it covers a lot. You know, like these cans, I got this at Tractor Supply, you know, like just Tractor Supply. So every once in a while you go in there and you'll see cases of them that are on the sell flyer ads, you know, for Rust-Oleum products. I don't see sell ads anywhere else for Rust-Oleum other than Tractor Supply. They don't have a huge assortment of, you know, to choose from, but the stuff they do have, I can find a use for. I'm gonna get this all sealed up, all of this in here, because today is the camper commitment. Putting the camper on, and it stays on. So from now on, we're gonna have more people helping us put this body on and off. But I'm trying to really sprint here because Levi's getting all the parts he needs to finish that chassis tomorrow. So if he gets that chassis done the next couple days, we're gonna need to put this body on, you know. So I'm gonna just do a thrash mode, and the next time I go to sleep, I plan on this thing being ready for a paint job. So, long day. I'm gonna get to it. I love you, Donnie. So I love the way it looks. Visually, it's there. But now comes like the scary part, because all of these seams that I have tacked together and I'm like happy with the silhouette of, I have to commit to. I have to really get in here and burn this in. And with the short amount of time that I have between now and August 10th, it's looking like I'm just gonna have to pull all-nighters and weld it all in long thrash sessions, which is dangerous. You know, if I get too much heat in this thing, I'll warp up this perfect little coach-built scrap pile monster I've got here, and I'll make it into a warped, wavy mess that I'll have to fill with putty. And you know I'm gonna have a uniform coat of putty over the entire car, but I don't want it to be thick. You know, I just want it to be a leveling coat. So I have to take my time. After I get it all welded solid, then you can screw it up again, because you have a grinding process that starts and it heat treats it all over again. Luckily, I have 3 or 4 different options for grinders, cut-off wheels. I even have a little micro belt sander now that I can get up in these little spots with. And all of these little additions over the years have finally got me to the point to where I can knock out about anything. I mean, I've went from a scrap pile to a body worked car ready for primer. How in the world have I already built those Isettas out there and I'm sitting here having to build this one? glad we lost. This thing wouldn't exist if we'd have won last year, so we do have that. You know, most people know me from being an upholsterer, but I actually got my teeth cut on bodywork. You know, I went to a vocational school in high school that WyoTech sent a recruiter to talk me into going to school. You know, when Anthony Palm came to watch me spray a truck, I sprayed it not even knowing who he was or why he was there. And me being from where I am, I mean, there's 38 of us out here. I never thought somebody from, you know, like a big nationally recognized school that I watched on TV would even know my name, let alone make the trip to see who I am and what I'm about. And he even came out here. He came down the gravel road, looked at what I was building, and invited me to go check out the campus. And when I got there, it was so big and scary that I told him no thank you. And Anthony was such a good guy, he wouldn't let it lie. He told me that I had too much talent to let go to waste, and that I was gonna have to get off this gravel road to turn into something. And I could always come back. And you know, he changed my life forever. You know, I went to WyoTech to, you know, get a job, really. And I worked at a body shop before I left, and I thought, why am I going to college to come work at a body shop again? And I didn't come back and work at a body shop. I came back and started an upholstery shop. And it led me to everything. You know, it got me a wife, it got me kids, property, everything, you know. I am so glad that Anthony Palm loved me enough to tell me that I had something in me, you know. Because to that point in my life, he might have been the first person to speak to me like an adult. The difference between part 2 of this docuseries and part 1 is we're a sponsored YouTube channel now. We have officially partnered up with WyoTech to take this Hot Wheels project to the next level. And when they sent us the sponsorship money, I started getting a legit parts list coming in. Enough so that the chassis was coming together. I have all the parts laying here for the chassis. And to save me time and give me all that extra attention I want to make this as nice as I can possibly make it this year, my buddy Levi McIntosh, I also call him Mikey's Merlin, he told me that he would get the brakes working on that chassis, get it fired up, and get it all tuned in while I did the body work on this thing. Which, I mean, this is like a divide and conquer situation from another local legend here in the area in Levi, and I'm lucky to have him. He sent me a video 2 or 3 days into it, of it fired up and running, brakes all squeezing and working. He's gonna bring it over today and we're gonna get this body on.
Borrow that gas tank for a few days?
Yeah, that's why I left it on there.
Okay.
It's all primed up. I mean, it's ready to fire up and everything now if you want to.
Can we fire it?
Yeah, absolutely. Lift the tank up a little bit.
Let's. Hey, go get that exhaust. Get the smoke going out, rev it.
How do you feel, Mikey? How do you feel, Levi?
Good, man.
You feel good?
Hey, it's running. I'm happy.
Yeah. Paper to paper.
All day.
Alright. We got the baby all out.
Awesome.
So we have got ourselves a coach built from the trash, running, primered rig. Be sure to come back next time because this thing gets painted, upholstered, August 10th. Wally World vacation with my family. Hot Wheels Legends Tour, here we come. Thank you so much, brother. I can't wait to paint this thing now. Looks just like my drawing.
I just need a couple hours and then one day next week.
Cool. Yeah. Love you, buddy. 10 days. What am I gonna do with the other 5?
Start part 3. Ready for part 3?
Ready for part 3. Thank y'all for watching part 2 of the Isetta RV. If you like what you seen there, we got 2 more days to go, and then it's Judgment Day. All that's gonna get covered on part 3. You're gonna see how the interior comes together out of that old sofa. You're gonna see how we get this thing painted and pretty, and then how we stack up with the rest of the world. See you on the next one.